Probably the first time in the years that we've worked together that I've ever had an opportunity to introduce him. So I was thinking about that this morning when I was getting ready, and I thought, first of all, this is the second longest working relationship that I've had with anybody. Now the first one is with my wife, and good marriage. Gary Rosberg is here. You know that you got to work at it. She's not here, so I'm just going to take a wild whim here and say I think it's working out pretty good. Okay. And I know from my perspective that it's been a great relationship with Jerry. But one thing I did learn through the years of being married is that sometimes when I enter into a conversation or communicate something, what I think was a really good delivery doesn't always come out that way. All right? So I thought, well, I better think through this if I'm going to introduce Jerry. So I got thinking, I thought, I wonder what Jerry would want me to say about him. So I thought, well, I could probably talk about the fact that he's an international speaker, been all over the world talking. I might bring up the fact that he is an author. He's got a published book. Maybe I could talk about his commitment to marriages and his involvement with family. Thank you, Jerry. Family life. That's the other thing we do very well. He fills in the blanks, all right? So family life conferences, and I thought, well, I don't know. Maybe I should talk about all the involvement that he has in the community, on the different boards, all the time that he spent mentoring people that aren't involved in our business or people that are in our business, and all the stuff that he's done in relationship to our industry and his commitment to our consortium and to Kingdom Advisors, one of the largest advisory groups in the United States. And, I don't know if I want to talk about that. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just talk about his commitment to his wife and to his family and all the things that he's done and the commitment that he's made to other children through being foster parents. I got done, I thought, nah, you won't want me to talk about any of that, so I'm not going to bring any of that stuff up. So what I came up with, I thought, there's two words to describe Jerry that I think are representative of what he does for everyone in this room and everyone at the foster group. And those two words are a great leader. And I know I'm on thin ice a little bit. Somewhere in this crowd's Denny Bowles out here, and he teaches leadership. So I thought I'd better be careful how I describe leadership. So I'm going to describe why I think Jerry's a great leader from my 20-plus years experience having watched him and seen what he's done for everyone in the room and for the foster group. So there's basically three things that I would describe a great leader. The first one is they have to assemble a team. They have to assemble a team, in this case, people from a number of different walks of life, identify who those people are, make sure that they are the same character, the same commitment to the people they're going to work for. And he's got to take them, and he's got to figure out where they're best suited to perform in that team. And that takes a unique skill set. There's a lot of great people. There's a lot of, if we want to use ball players, there's a lot of Class A ball players. But you need to have that combination, and Jerry possesses that ability. And in order to fulfill that part of being a great leader, I think the number two thing is that ties to it is you have to cast a vision. Now, we all know a lot of people that have visions, and a lot of people are willing to share their visions, but having a vision is only part of it. You have to be able to communicate it, and you have to let people understand what it means, not only to them, but to the people that they work for. And you know you've got it when you're the visionary leader, and people not only want to be part of it, but they want to own it. And Jerry, I believe, possesses that skill. And then the third thing is, this is like my intellectual level, okay? If you want to be a great leader, you got to be a leader, all right? And for any of you that thought you were going to be disappointed in the fact that I wasn't going to give a sports analogy, here it comes, okay? My idea as a great leader is that coach that takes his team to the football field on Saturday afternoon, and that everybody on that team knows who's leading. And there's no question. And the reason they know it is because they know that the person that's out there in the front is committed to do whatever it takes to get the results, to help those individuals perform, to see the vision, and that means whatever it takes. And the only way you get that is by living it and by other people seeing it in your commitment. It also takes humility. And the reason I say that is, and I know that Jerry possesses this, is because at some point, for the greater cause, you have to give up the ball. You have to allow someone else to have the responsibility of the work and rely on them to do the work, allow them to make mistakes so that they can grow and learn. And I've seen him do that also over all the years. So that's my description of leadership. It's my description of leadership because that's what I've witnessed for the last 20 years. And it's a privilege for me to introduce my mentor, my good friend, Jerry Foster.
Gosh, that's, how do you stand up here and do anything after that? Thanks, Mark, I appreciate that. We're entering 25 years. This is the beginning of our 25th year of doing this. And we're excited about that. And, this is a new format. Usually we come together, we have dinner, we invite a speaker to come up and talk about something to do with what we do, our financial, our investment philosophy, whatever it might be, invite a good speaker in. We did this new format with the breakout sessions. I hope you enjoyed that. We've had some great feedback. If you like that, that was a lot of work of Brooke who put that together, and give us feedback on it because we think this is something that we'd like to do in the future is to create opportunity for us to get more information to you. But what that means is that this is going to be a little bit of a different presentation. Entering our 25th year, my job tonight is to take the last 24 years and put it into context. Put a little bit of, give you a little bit of the story, a little bit of understand the DNA of our company and how we've ended up where we are, to explain the heart of Foster Group. And so that's what I'm going to do tonight. That's my job. And I like word pictures. And word pictures kind of help me kind of establish kind of where we're going. And have you ever started out with something in mind, something that you wanted to do, and an entirely different outcome took place? I remember a few years ago, we were on our way to pick up one of our kids at camp down in southern Missouri, and my sister was visiting. She was going to follow us down and pick up her kids at the camp as well. So we had two cars going down. I was in one car in a Suburban. Nancy was in the other one with my sister. As we're driving down, I call back to them and I say, hey, let's stop at the next rest stop real quick and we can keep going. As we pull into this rest stop, right on the curb, right in front of this rest stop, are two portable toilets, the blue Kaibos sitting right there on the sled, the skids. And I thought, this is great, because we can pull in and I can get out, I can go real quick, get back in the car, because I'm a fast-paced, task-oriented person. You got to get where you're going. And I'm thinking, this is going to be 2 minutes at the most, and we're back on track, we're going to get where we need to go. So we pull in, I pull in right in front, the stall right in front of these two toilets. And I go to put on the brakes, but something had happened as we've been driving. Evidently, the hard rubber floor mat, had slid up, and it was behind the brake, but on top of the accelerator. So as I put on the brakes to stop in front of these two toilets, we lunged up on the curb. We hit those two toilets. I'm pushing as hard as I can on the brake, and I start pushing these toilets across the rest stop. The more I push, the more I start push these things. People were scattered. They were diving underneath picnic tables. They were running behind the building. I'm pushing as hard as I can, trying to stop the car, and we're just pushing these toilets across. As I'm pushing them, the building is getting closer and closer, and I think, I got to stop this car. So the only thing I knew what to do is I just shoved the thing into park. And I just stood there looking at these two toilets. And I'm thinking to myself, please don't let anybody be in there. Because I'm just imagining that there's somebody sitting in there, and I've been pushing them across, and things are sloshing all over the place. Well, people start crawling out from underneath picnic tables. They start coming from behind the building. I look over, my wife and my sister in the other car. They're looking at me with this, trying to figure out what I'm doing. By the way, nobody was in the toilets, okay? So that's a good thing to know. But it did create a great word picture for me. Because when I started out, when I left college with the vision of going to the inner city of Chicago and living in the roughest, highest crime rate neighborhood in the city, and I was going to serve the youth of Chicago. That was my vision. When I got to Chicago, I met my wife. In fact, what I want to do right now is I'd like Nancy, stand up, Nancy. Stand up. Come on, stand up. Let's stand up here. And it's important for you to understand something. Today is actually Nancy's birthday. Yep. And not only is it Nancy's birthday, but it's my youngest daughter's birthday. And just for the record, I had nothing to do with scheduling this dinner on this date, okay? It was actually my oldest daughter, Brooke, who works for the company that scheduled it. So it's her fault that we scheduled this. I woke up this morning thinking I might be able to, kind of make up for this thing. I woke up this morning, I reached over, I gave her a kiss, and I said, happy birthday. I said, can you believe it? We're going to get together tonight, have a fancy dinner with 200 of our closest friends to celebrate your birthday. Didn't work. Didn't work. But I met my wife in Chicago. We moved back to Des Moines, and we started our life together. But, in a marriage, there's always two people that come into a marriage, and they have different experiences with finances. And so in our marriage, Nancy was the one she's the one that had saved money. She balanced the checkbook every month. I was the one that spent money, and my idea of balancing the checkbook was to switch banks. And so we began our life together, and she was taking care of the finances. She would go and she would, balance a checkbook. And one day she came home from buying groceries for the family, and I'd gone out with a friend of mine, and I'd bought a bunch of railroad ties to do some landscaping at our house. And I remember looking at her as she drove up, and I knew I was in trouble. I could tell by the look on her face. She got out of the car. She knew we didn't have the money. She reached into her purse. She pulled out the checkbook, and she threw it at me. Hit me in the chest, fell on the floor, and she says, there, you take care of it. And I said, what am I supposed to do with that? And she says, figure it out. And so for the next few years, literally a few years, I spent trying to understand how to be responsible financially. It took me a few months to understand what NSF meant on my bank statement. And we were into debt. We were struggling. We were trying to figure this thing out. Now, you might be looking at me saying, I'm not sure that's a really good story for you to be telling to your clients if you're in a financial planning company. Well, let me tell you the rest of the story. Because at one point, we went to a finance workshop put on by Larry Burkett. And at that conference, at that workshop, I began to understand and learn some basic principles of finance. And I began to look at the debt that we had incurred and began to realize we can do this. And we put a strategy together for eliminating debt. And then I started looking at managing our finances. And instead of switching banks when I needed to balance a checkbook, I literally would find myself sitting at the dining room table for 2 hours looking for 25 cents to balance that checkbook. There was this incredible transformation that took place. And when I was doing this, I was thinking, I can do this. This is fun. And what I began to see is that there was a transformation took place. I took this love, this passion, this desire to be in the inner city of Chicago working with youth, and now I had a passion, a vision for helping people transform the way they look at money. It was one way I thought I was going in an entirely different outcome, and that was the genesis of Foster Group, was learning to manage my own finances. So that was the beginning. 1989, started Foster Group. It was just myself. I had a handful of clients we built up. As we were building the company, I began to realize if I was going to really build this thing, I needed to invest in it. And so we decided we needed to borrow some money. I went to Nancy. I said, Nancy, we need to borrow money in order to invest in this thing and really get it going. We had to borrow $50,000. Now, Nancy and I, we teach at marriage conferences, and she'll talk, when she's talking to people, she'll say, you know, there's only been maybe a handful of times in our marriage where I've disagreed. I've not been comfortable with the decision that Jerry was making. This was one of them. But she had seen the transformation in me, and she decided, you know what, I'll trust him. I'll trust him on this one. And so we borrowed the money, and we invested it in it, and we began to see more and more clients, and we began to see the company growing. I started doing workshops. Remember that, and I did workshops for Iowa Power, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Meredith Publishing, Adult Ed, ISU. Many of you are in this room. You're a part of our team, the Foster Group team, as clients because you went to one of those workshops. I was officing in this building with a group of advisors that were this other company. I was just renting the space from them, and they came to me one day. They asked me if I'd be interested in joining their company. I wasn't comfortable with the culture. I wasn't comfortable with the people. And I basically said, no, I don't think so. Then they looked at me and they said, then if you're not going to join us, you need to understand that we consider you a competitor, and we're going after your clients. And so here I was, a solo practitioner in this office with all these people, and they're coming after me, and I'm feeling a little bit, a little bit vulnerable. And literally that night, in the dark of the night, I went into the office with a couple friends. We loaded up all the files. We moved my desk out in the dark of the night, and we moved and we set up shop somewhere else. And we kept building one client at a time. We started managing money in 1992. And when we started managing money, charging a fee to manage the money, you know how that works. You bill at the beginning of the quarter. And when you bill at the beginning of the quarter, then you have to make it last for the rest of the quarter. We measured our progress, we measured our success by how far we could get into the quarter before I had to go and exercise my personal credit line. And every quarter we'd get a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. I still remember, Mark, the first quarter. We got to the end of the quarter and there was actually some money left in the checking account. And that's how we measured our success. In those early days, we did whatever we had to survive. But most importantly, we did what we had to serve our clients. And we began to establish a culture. Now, culture is one of those things, those words that's tossed around in business today. I don't know if anybody completely understands it, but it's real. I really believe that for us, the culture, our culture became the catalyst for what we did. And it began by us understanding and seeing that each person that we were working with had their own personal story. I remember a client up in Northwest Iowa, a doctor, one of my very first clients, came to a workshop that we did for the Iowa Medical Society. And this doctor and his wife, they had no children. They'd done very well. They were getting ready to retire. And I sat down with them, and they'd made a ton of mistakes. They'd worked with a number of different advisors and had done some things that if they were both to die, they would have paid millions, or their estate would have paid millions of dollars in taxes. I looked at that and I recognized what I need to do is to bring in the expertise, the people that could help me. So I brought in some attorneys and we sat down with them and we began to plan and strategize for how they could establish something that would last beyond their lifetime. When they retired, they moved to Montana. When they both died, a fully endowed endowment was set up for Rocky Mountain College. They set up an account for all of their nephews and nieces so that the college education was provided for. They established a legacy, and we got to be a part of that. Another client that came onto some money through a family business. And we sat down and did some advanced planning for them. Our team went and did some advanced planning. We created some confidence for them, created some strategies. They had a real desire for philanthropy. And they particularly had a desire to give money towards education and to help families who were in a place where they couldn't afford education and to keep their children from coming out of college with a significant amount of debt. And so our team put together some tools for helping them put a strategy together and to figure out where their money was going to go and how they were going to give it away. But they knew two families in their circle of acquaintances where the families were not in a position to be able to pay for education. And so anonymously, they identified these two kids. They asked our team to call the family, ask them to come in, and we got to sit with them in our conference room, two of our advisors, and tell these families that somebody had anonymously paid for all their college education. What an incredible opportunity for us to be able to step into that role and to see these people's dreams come true and to see the dreams of these kids and their families come true. There's an especially personal client that we have, Stephanie Verink and her family. Her husband, Galen, was in his early 40s when I met Galen. Galen came to me and he asked me if I would mentor him. He was an executive with a large bank, high up, doing very well. He just wanted somebody that was a few years ahead of him to just bounce some ideas off of and just talk things through. And so Galen and I started meeting, once a month and just talking. He called me one day and he said, hey, can I see you? And I went over and he told me that he'd just been diagnosed with liver cancer. For the next 8 months, I walked through his last days as he meticulously planned, as he meticulously looked at all the details, as he went through everything. I even remember the last conversation I had with him. He'd been up all night. He had this yellow pad. Remember that, Stephanie? A yellow pad that he always was keeping his notes. Everything was going, he was making sure everything got taken care of. And I walked in and he looked up at me from his bed and he said, what about my miles? Because he traveled extensively. He wanted to make sure that his family would be able to get his miles and be able to use it for travel. Stephanie has 3 children, 3 young children. One of them, Sarah, is here with her today. Sarah, I want you to understand something. I want you to know your dad did everything he could do to make sure you and your brother and your sister and your mom were taken care of. He was a good man, and he really took care of you. And it was a joy for us as a team to step beside him. And then when he passed away, to be able to step beside Stephanie and to help fulfill the plans and the dreams that she and Galen had done together, and to fill a role of being a filter, a protector, a translator of a lot of complex issues. These are just 3 stories. But when I look at this room, I look all around this room is filled with stories. Every one of you in this room has your own story. And when we look at our relationship with you, we want you to understand that is the joy of what we do. That is what drives us. That is why you are part of our culture, is because we get to take part in some way of being a part of your story. So that leads me then to an issue of culture. I mentioned that before. I said you hear a lot about culture, but what is it really? I really believe that at the core of our success is a culture that's become part of our DNA. It's how we think. It's what we believe, it's what we do, it's who we are, it's who we serve, it's your stories, it's your passions, it's your dreams. You are part of our culture. And that's why when I start defining culture right at the very top, we find you and your stories. But as you look inside our company, you look inside our DNA, we have to look at the why. Why do we do what we do? And when we do that, we have to go to our mission statement. And mission statement is one of those things that a lot of companies have. I'm not sure most people would even know what their mission statement of their company. We've really tried to make it truly the compass for what we do and why we do it. We spend a lot of time thinking about it. And here's what our mission statement says. It says, we are catalysts for positive life change, providing financial solutions that reduce complexity and establish a high probability of success. Now, there are 4 critical elements of that mission statement. The first one is that we are catalysts for positive life change. We really believe that one of the most important things that we can do is to help you with conversations about where you want to go, what you want to accomplish. And so that's part of how we see it. It's the heart of our mission statement, being a catalyst for that kind of change. The second part is providing financial solutions. We understand, we know that you came to us for financial help. You've got questions, you're looking for answers. Everything we do is solution-driven. The next part is to reduce complexity. There's an incredible amount of noise out there. Conflicting ideas. You listen to the media, you hear one thing, and another station, you hear something different. What we want to do is we want to reduce that. We want to do everything we can to try to help create a simpler look at a simpler life for you. And then the last piece is establish a high probability of success. Everything we do goes back to your goals, your dreams, and what we can do to help you accomplish that. Most of you that are clients today, and you understand our investment policy, it comes back to this issue. Our investment policy is built around our mission. Our mission statement says high probability of success. And so we invest our money with that in mind, without trying to go for the home runs, looking for the next big thing, but to invest it in a way where we have the greatest potential for accomplishing your goals. Then you got to look at values, because values is important. We're passionate about our values. We strive to practice them in everything we do. We use them as a filter for all the decisions we make. And this should be really important to you, because our relationship with you is guided by our values. So let me give you an example. When you look at humility, when we think about humility, basically what that means very simply is you come first. We come second. We're thinking about you. Everything we do, you come first. Accountability, at the heart of this value is the issue of transparency, full disclosure. That's why you understand everything that's going on. It's why our reporting goes way beyond anything that we have to do, because we want you to understand exactly what's happening with your portfolio. Integrity, we'll always do the right thing no matter what the cost. No matter the cost, we will do the right thing. Respect. We understand that the money we manage is your money. It's meant to accomplish your dreams, your goals. And we want you to understand we'll never forget that. We respect that. Now, if you look at that, those four right there, those four values are more issues of character. These last two are issues of what we are delivering to you. We're committed to the bringing the highest degree of excellence as we possibly can, the highest degree of expertise to the table as we can. That's why we become active in trying to establish strategic alliances with other advisors, with attorneys and accountants, insurance agents, whoever we need, so we can bring them to the table and make sure that you have the best expertise. But expertise, knowledge, all that is nothing if you can't apply it with some kind of wisdom. And so we try to step back and truly understand, okay, with all that we know, what's the right decision to make moving forward? So, we'll go back to our issue of culture. We've got real people, real stories. We've got mission and value. But for us, that goes a little bit deeper. It goes deeper in the sense that we really need, or we really have a passion for serving our clients. In those early days when we first started out, it was contagious. We came to the office every day as a small group. We began to grow in terms of the number of staff people. We were dedicated to one thing, and that was to create an experience for our clients that they had not experienced before. We were focused. We were sponges. We learned from anyone who would tell us their story. We looked for ways to improve our service offering. But the one thing we knew is that we couldn't become complacent, because complacency is the beginning of the decline of a business. Many of you have heard of the Sigma curve. The Sigma curve is an illustration that shows the evolution of a company. And if you would look at the evolution of a company, you'd see that a company starts out growing real slow, but then there's a high growth pattern that takes place, and eventually it levels off, and if nothing's done, you're going to start to see a decline. And what happens here is right about this point right here, this is when complacency sets in. You've gone through this tremendous growth spurt, and you start to rest. A company will rest on its laurels. It will rest on what they've been doing, and they start to get lazy. They start to get comfortable, and as it levels off, if nothing is done, you see a decline. And so the key to a successful business lasting for a long period of time is that sometime in this time period is to look at what you're doing and to start thinking, what do we need to be thinking about next? What do we need to be putting on the radar screen and beginning to implement so that you go through that growth spurt somewhere in here, and as you start to really grow in this next big idea, it's happening right about the time that complacency could be setting in, and you're taking the company to the next level. But if you're not careful, the same thing will happen. So it's critical that once again you identify that growth period, you find the next thing, and you hit that pace, your pace about the same time that potential complacency can set in. Now this is important. We've gone through many, and I could list out for you many things that we think we've done to help us stay current, to stay on top of it. But there are three big decisions that we made that I think were critical to establishing our culture and establishing the service model that we're bringing to you as clients. The first one is this issue of team approach. This is very contrary to our industry right now. See, our industry is silo-focused. If you go into a brokerage firm or whatever, you're going to see an advisor with maybe one or two people working for them, and they work in this silo, they're isolated, they do their thing. But what we believe is in all of you have a primary advisor, but you need to understand that as your primary advisor is working with you, you are a client of Foster Group, not a client of that advisor. And when you come in as a client, you've got an entire team that's behind you. And when the right time is, when the need comes up and the timing isn't right, we're going to introduce somebody else into that relationship who can help because maybe they have a level of expertise that's different from your advisor. This is when we bring in strategic alliances. This is why it's important for us to sit with the attorneys and the accountants, and for us to be in a place where we're the quarterback and we're helping assimilate all the information because we're functioning as a team. What this really means for you is that there's continuity. If something happens to your advisor, we've set up continuity, that something is going to be, you're going to have somebody that's going to be able to continue understanding your circumstance. We're certainly going to raise the level of expertise. And we're going to do that through strategic alliances, bringing the right people into the equation. The next big idea, the next thing that we did that I think was key, is this issue of deciding back in '92 that we were going to go fee only. Now, this is a big thing, to go fee only back in the early '90s. It's still big even today, because our industry is really geared towards you make the sale, you make a big commission up front, and then you move to the next one, and you make commission again. And so it really is driven towards that. And it's an extremely hard thing to move from commission-based to fee-based. I still remember the first time when we made that decision, we went all in. And we gave up insurance licenses, we gave up everything. We went all in to be fee only. And I remember we'd gone through advanced planning with a client. There was a need for insurance. And so we went through, we did all the analysis. We got the proposals. We did everything. I think we even went so far as to almost fill out the application for the client. And then we called the insurance agent in. And I remember handing him the application for the insurance, which was going to net this insurance agent $10,000 commission. And I remember handing it to him and him taking a hold of it and starting to pull. And there was this little tug of war that went on. Because I didn't want to let go of that. But we were all in. And we made that decision. Now, I say fee only. When we decided to go fee only, we did it for two reasons. We wanted to work for you, not for somebody that was paying us a commission. And we wanted to do what was best for you. What's interesting is that we were on the cutting edge of something that we didn't even understand when we did that. Because now what you're hearing going on out there is this whole big issue of fiduciary. What is a fiduciary? And you're seeing a big argument, or not argument, a big discussion, conversation going on in our industry about what is a fiduciary. And quite frankly, most people in our industry are saying, don't want that responsibility. But what we're saying is that's what you hire us to do. To be a fiduciary, to step in on your behalf and do what's best for you and nobody else. You've heard us talk a lot about the Zero Alpha Group. The Zero Alpha Group is a group of advisors from around the country, 7 firms that manage over $10 billion together collectively. We do benchmarking, we do best practices, we challenge one another. And one of the things we did early on is we said, we want to lead the conversation in this whole discussion about being a fiduciary. And there was a designation that came out called CFIX. It came from the Center for Fiduciary Excellence. That's what it stands for. And it basically takes firms through this extensive process of proving that you are a fiduciary. And we were one of the first in the entire, ZAG members were some of the first in the nation to submit ourselves to that. That was important. The last one was the decision we make was to begin to invest with evidence-based investing. When we first started, we weren't doing that. When we first started, we were looking for the better mousetrap. We were looking for the fund manager that was going to hit the home run. We spent a lot of time looking for that, but what we found is that a manager who outperforms the market one year is unlikely to be able to do it the next year, and certainly unlikely to be able to do it with any kind of consistency. And so we began to do the research, and that's when we ended up with people like DFA, who were helping us really look at the academic approach to investing, evidence-based investing. And we said, you know what? That fits our mission statement. It fits our clients. We're going to do that. And that was an entirely, a huge change for us. You take our mission, you take our vision, you put that with the passion to deliver a great client experience. But then that has to happen through some kind of strategic offering. And so here's how I would describe it. When we look at what it is that we bring to the table for you, and this has evolved over the years, here's that way I would best describe it. I think there are 3 key elements to it. And you can best illustrate this with 3 circles. The first one is the issue of cost. What we wanted to do is we wanted to put together an offering that was fair, it was competitive, and it was profitable. We need to be profitable. You don't want to do business with somebody who's not profitable because we won't be around. And so we spend a lot of time, and we have been very purposeful to make sure that when we bring something to the marketplace, when we bring it to you, it's fair. It's competitive with the rest of the market, and we're going to make money so that we can stay in business. So that was the first element. We had to put together a good economic engine for what we're bringing. The second that we really saw is this issue of competence, and you've heard me already talk about this, but we really believe that this is critical. It's the whole issue of, gaining the knowledge, gaining the expertise. And I have to tell you, we're passionate about it, and it's what's driven our whole idea of being in a team concept, working under a team concept. The other part of it that I've not talked much about is the issue of clarity. This is really important because with all the complexity that's going on out there, one of the things that we really believe that we can bring to the table for our clients is what some of our advisors have referred to as themselves as being master translators. When you look at all the information out there, if we can spend the time and translate it in a way that makes sense, you know what it's going to do? It's going to create peace of mind. So where does that leave us? That leaves us with this center right here. And what we believe we've done by bringing these 3 elements to the table is we've created confidence and we've created trust. And what we believe we've done through this whole thing is create a unique client experience. And as we become more comfortable with that, as we begin to communicate that to our clients, it begins to make sense, and it's become part of our overall culture. So we've got passion. We add passion for serving clients there. So then what we got to do is we got to stop and step back and look at, well, what's going on internally? What's important to us, and how are we going to do this? There was a book out several years ago called Good to Great. Probably most of you read it, but in that book, Good to Great, Jim Collins, he talks about getting the right people on the bus. But then he talked about the fact that getting the right people on the bus isn't enough if they're not in the right seats. And so I actually went to a business coach for about 5 or 6 years, several years back, and one principle that this business coach taught me was critical. It became an important part of our DNA, of our culture. And it's an issue that can be illustrated like this. If you took and you put 4 concentric circles together, like this, and you took every activity that you do in any given day at work, and you could probably apply this to your personal life as well, but you look at work, in any given day, you could take everything you do and you could put it in one of 4 categories. This outside circle is you do things that you're incompetent in. There are a lot of things that you do because nobody else is there to do it, and you just have to do it. But it sucks the life out of you. But somebody's got to do it, so you're doing it, and it takes a lot of time. The next circle in, there are some things that you do that you're competent in. In fact, I would guess in many situations, just by sheer raw talent, you're able to convince most people that you're really good at it. But it still sucks the life out of you because it's not what you're really meant to do. This next circle is the issue of excellence. You can do some things that you're really excellent. In fact, you may find that you're better than 90% of the population at doing those things. But it's still not in the center, because right in the center is what we call unique ability. And under unique ability, typically a person is going to have 1 to 3 things that they do that when they're doing those things, they're in the sweet spot. They would do it for free if they had to, because they love doing those 3 things. The interesting thing is that very few people will take the time to figure out what are those 3 things. And what we've discovered is, and what I learned from this coach is that the amount of time that a person spends in their unique ability has a direct impact on how effective they are in adding to the team. And so what we've done is we've worked really hard to try to help people identify what are those 3 things. And to begin to get people working in the right kind of position. Now, this is important to you. The reason it's important to you is that when we have our people work in their unique ability, there's a fulfillment and there's a satisfaction that takes place. Our people love coming to work. They love doing what they do because they're working in their sweet spot. So what we do then is let me go back here. So we add then best use of talent to our culture. Now here's what we've done. We've got real people, real stories. We've got our mission, we got our values. We got passion for serving clients. We got the best use of talent. Now here's what's happened that I think now really kind of describes the story of what's happened over the last 24 years. As a result of these things up here, what's happened is we've attracted top talent. We got great people. I'm telling you, I would put our people up against any other firm in the nation. When I look at the things that our people get done, it's incredible. So we've attracted the best. We have a common vision. So you got top talent working with a common vision, and then here's the key to the thing. Working with great clients. And you know why we got great clients? Because you, whether you even know it or not, have identified with our culture. We've just found that the people who decide to work with us, they work with us because they feel comfortable with the culture. That's why I go back up here and say, you're the most important part of this culture that we've built. And the reason you're here is because you identified. So we had top talent, common vision, working with great clients, And ultimately what happens is we got positive outcomes. And here's what I believe happens. I believe that what we have, you and us together, we've got people desiring to change or to impact, let's say it that way, to impact their world. I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't have a desire to change the world. If you talk to anybody, everybody will say, somehow I want to make a difference. But when you start talking about the world, people get a little bit overwhelmed, because how do you change the world? And part of our job is to say, you know what? We change the world by starting with your own world, your own corner of the world, your own spot on the wall. And we work together, and so it's this issue of people believing that they can truly change the world. Now, there's the culture. There it is, right there on the screen. That's what we've created over the last 24 years. The best evidence of the fact that this culture is working, that in 24 years of being in business, we have never lost, in 24 years, a single advisor, a single client-facing, front-stage advisor. We've never had one leave. In our industry, that's unheard of. I don't know any place else that when I talk and I tell people that, when I go to industry meetings, when I speak, when I say we've never lost an advisor in 24 years, jaws drop because they can't believe it's true. But we've never had an advisor leave. And I believe the reason is because of our culture. The other telling tale there is that we have 98% client retention. Our clients don't leave. So where does that leave us today? Looking forward. Many of you know that, in fact, most of you know, those of you who are new clients may not know this, those of you who are guests may not know this, but 3 years ago I was diagnosed with cancer. And I was diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer. It's called choroidal melanoma. It's an ocular melanoma. So I have a melanoma tumor in my left eye. I had it taken care of with radiation therapy treatment. I lost part of the vision in my eye. It's blurry. I've been able to retain what I have left as a result of some experimental treatment that I'm getting. I go in every 8 weeks and I get a shot in my eye. Kind of gives new meaning to the old saying, stick a needle in my eye. The prognosis is what's interesting for me right now, though. The tumor's gone. It's been taken care of. But the prognosis for this particular kind of cancer is that it falls in one of two categories. It's either a very aggressive form or a less aggressive form. 50% of people who get this, it's only 6 in a million people get it, 50% of them get it, are in the aggressive, 50% in the less aggressive. If it's in the aggressive, it almost always metastasizes in the liver and is deadly, and usually happens somewhere statistically in 3 to 7 years. The problem is I don't know which one I have. But here's what that's done for me, and this is the point. The point is it's given me a new perspective on life. It's helped me to become much more intentional in everything I do. It's made me realize that I need to be more strategic in how I lead and how I function in this company. What it's helped me do is it's helped me refine what I believe is the next curve. See, when you look at the curve, what's next? How are we going to serve you best? And this is the next curve, because I'm looking at this thing, and as we are growing, we don't want to become complacent. So we're right now in this period right now of another growth spurt. One of the things we're looking at is the issue of sustainability. How do you build an organization that lasts beyond just one person? How do you build an organization that lasts beyond just a few people? And the way that happens is it happens by having multiple shareholders. Today we have 11, and that'll be growing over the years. It happens as a result of having strong governance. and we are working on it. That's one of my new roles. As I've stepped out of being CEO and chairman of the board, we're working on governance. Because we want to make sure we have things in place so that when this first generation of advisors are begin to move on, we've got strong governance in place. It happens as a result of having professional management. And for the first time, we are beginning to look at that, and we need people inside the business that are working on the business. So that while the advisors are working with clients, we have people that are paying attention to the things that really matter so that we're here. And lastly, it happens by having a strong succession plan. What's going to happen in the years to come? We're on the front end of this. There's a looming problem that's happening in our industry right now. And there's a whole generation of advisors in their 50s and 60s that haven't even thought about this. They haven't even thought about it. In fact, there was an article in Investment News here within the last month, and here's a quote from that article. It says, "Building a sustainable advisory business requires a deliberate strategy and usually takes more than 10 years to do it right. We've been working on it for 25 years. This needs to be important to you because what you want is you want to know that there's continuity. You need to have confidence. You need to believe that we're going to be here to handle some of the issues that your children may have and their children. We're constantly looking for ways to improve the experience that you have with us. And what I want you to know is that we are truly working on a company that will be around for the next 100 years or more. Now, none of us will be there. But if we do all these other things right, the company will be there to handle your future heirs and the generations coming up. So where does that leave us tonight? Before 1989, you couldn't have told me in a million years that I'd be where I am today. I mean, I was a youth worker in the ghetto of Chicago. And you couldn't have told me in a million years that I'd be standing on this stage talking to this audience. But here I am. It's been an unbelievable journey. We have a team that's unmatched in the industry, as I just told you. And so for all of you and the team that are here today, I want you to know something. I am proud of you. We have strategic alliances that have really helped us do our job. They help us serve you as clients. And for the strategic alliances that are in the room tonight, thank you for allowing us to serve our clients together. Most importantly, we have the best clients. You know what I love about these dinners? Every year we've done them. I mean, I can think way back. Every year we've done it. You come in, you sit down, and many times you sit down with people you've not met before, and before dinner's over, you're exchanging business cards and you're figuring out how to become pen pals for the rest of your life. And the reason why is because we're just alike. I mean, we have so much in common. We understand what it is that we're all trying to accomplish together. And so for those of you who are clients, thank you. I'm saying that honestly, thank you for allowing us the privilege of being able to help you with your story, because every one of you has a story. Together, we all have a promising future. And I'm just looking forward to building that future with you. So, thanks for letting me just share. I've never shared that before. Never shared that with clients. Some of this I've never shared with staff before. Some of the genesis of the company. But I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share a little bit of what's happened over the last 24 years. So thank you.
All right. Jerry, that was fantastic. We appreciate your insights. We appreciate the way that you care about every person in this room, clients, team members, all of it. So what a treat it was to hear from Jerry tonight. So we appreciate that. I think one of the things that we want to do is just take some time. If there are questions, we would love to give you the opportunity to ask Jerry questions, and we have a mic here that we can run around and field those questions. We also, as you know, we had 4 great breakout sessions today. So, and I think everybody who presented was here as well. So if there's, if we just want to take some general time for a Q&A, we'd be happy to do that. So, Jerry, if you just come back up, and if there are questions, we can field those, and if not, we'll just close the evening down. So any questions for Jerry tonight?
I mean, obviously you can't look into the crystal ball and on this and everything, but what happens if our brilliant Congress decides to default on our debt, our portfolios?
Yep, yeah, it's great. Remember when I talked about the unique ability? Where'd Kent go?
Where did Kent go?
Oh my goodness, Kent just left. Where did he go?
We're going to come back to that question because that is a Kent Kramer question.
That is a Kent Kramer question. So, hey, and let me answer that question with this precursor to that. One of the things that I did very early on is I figured out that what I needed to do is out-hire myself at every position in the company, and I've done it. I have out-hired myself, and so I'm the first one to say, gosh, you don't want to know what I think. You want to know what Kent's thinking or somebody else in the room. So, we can ask Ed too if Ed's somewhere in here. If Ed wants to stand up and take it, you want to take it, Ed?
Yeah, great.
There we go. We got it.
I will get Kent for this. I wish I had the crystal ball. I don't. What I would suggest to you is that while this seems really scary, and it probably seems to some extent different than where we've been before, there are some similarities to this situation, to other ones in the past. And one of the things that we have hitched our wagon to is the resilience of capital markets. They are not nearly as emotional as we are as individual investors. And while I would not begin to tell you that there won't be some reaction, the likelihood is that they would, in a relatively short period of time, get over that. So I know this will be a big surprise to a lot of you. We think you ought to stay the course.
Okay. Gosh, Ed, I've never heard you say that before.
Great. Thanks, Ed. Other questions? Specific to Jerry or Foster Group or markets, whatever. We got a hot table here, folks.
I think it's safe for me to talk while Kent is out of the room.
Yeah, go ahead. He's leaving now.
Oops, here he is. Okay, I'll be quick. Jerry, there are some people talking today about leadership in terms of clarity, example, and optimism. You've delivered all 3 of those for us tonight, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
One of the things I have to say that I think is an example beyond belief is that you and I started with some people who were being shoved out of their jobs. The window was open, and you looked after those people all these years, regardless of their wealth. And I think that speaks so clearly to your mission in delivering people. So I want to thank you for that. Also, as Ed just said a moment ago, our country has been exceptional for well over 200 years, and that exceptionality continues because it's part of us. It's our DNA as Americans. So I think what you're doing in terms of looking to the future is so meaningful to all of us in the room. But we have to remember we are Americans after all. We believe in liberty after all. We believe in our exceptionalism after all. And we're going to be fine. Thanks so much for this evening.
You bet. Thanks. And thank you, Madam Ambassador. There you go. You would know from what you speak, so thanks.
Any other questions? Great. You know, Mary, that's a beautiful note to end on. So to all of you, we say thank you. We say thank you for the honor and privilege to serve you. And we're looking forward to the coming year, the coming years, decades. For a long time, we're going to be around here to serve you, our clients. Have a great evening. God bless. And thanks so much for coming.